so excited. I'm so confused. Holy crap, like it just keeps expanding. Waiting for almost 2 books. Who the fuck saw that coming? Not me. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is going on? If I were them, I would have absolutely arrested her and beat the shit out of her. What on real shore? Filming this in advance because there's no way I'm lugging this book all the way back to Canada with me. There's just not enough space in my luggage, but we're reading it. So we are reading Rhythm of Friggin' War. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today is a very, very, very special day because I'm finally going to start reading Rhythm of War, book 4 in the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. It has been months of me holding myself back because I was like, no, read other books. Don't jump into this one because if you read it all at once, you're going to enter a huge reading slump. And I was right. I gave myself those months off, but now it's time. It is time. I have it bought and downloaded on my Kindle. I'm so excited. I did receive all 5 books in PR, but they're way too heavy. I'm traveling so much this next few months that I was like, I cannot carry those books physically. They are literally the size of like 1,300 pages each, basically. I couldn't do it. So I have them on my Kindle. Very, very excited. So we're gonna do a reading vlog. I'm going to share my thoughts, opinions as they come up. Will they be good? Hopefully, because the first 3 books are really great, especially book 1 and book 2. Those books were 6 stars. Book 3 was like 5 stars. Book 4, what is she gonna be? What is she gonna be? We'll see. Let's get into it. I am on chapter 12, I think, and it started off really strong. Book 4, I was like, wait, I think we're just gonna jump straight into fighting. And then you just, after every chapter, you just was still fighting. Like, you kept going back, and I was like, we need to pause. Like, I need to see some, like, characters just chilling, and then we get into the fighting. But it was bam, 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 bam. Like, Mr. Sanderson was not giving us a moment to breathe. The first chapter being Lyran, I was like, I opened the book, and I was like, who the fuck is Lyran? And it took me some time to be like, oh my god, that's Kaladin's dad. Like, I wanted more Kaladin's family for so long. I'm so glad they're now going to be on the Shattered Plains with him. Like, I just want to see that relationship grow. I'm so excited. I definitely hope that they work on their relationship because this whole, you're not supposed to be a soldier, your hands are made for something else. I'm like, this is getting old, guys. Just kiss and make up. Father and son. Come on. I'm at the chapter where Dalinar has let Kaladin go from active duty, and I'm like, you know what? This makes perfect sense. This is the character development that I love in books. The ones that actually allow you to see consequences of actions and behaviors. And of course, you know, what Kaladin has been through isn't his fault, but like, it's the reality. You've gone through so much shit. Like, it is completely normal to not be okay. And that's something that we say in our world nowadays. It's like, it's okay to not be okay. Does anyone remember that slogan? Where did that slogan go? So when he let him go, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. But also, I was hoping, like, low-key hoping that we'd start the book with Kaladin having done the 5th or the 4th ideals. I was surprised. I was like, damn, still on 3? How? But also, I'm so curious to know what the 4th ideal is. Like, what new powers does it give? What do you need to accomplish to be able to kind of rise above it? And also, right now, I'm trying to guess what I think Kaladin would do now that he's not on active duty. He's not going to be training the Radiants. I think he's gonna go back to surgery. Also, I'm like literally at the part where he's sitting down talking to Adolin about like how he's gonna let go, and Adolin is talking about Shallan and what she's going through, and he's like, you as a surgeon, what typically happens when people aren't okay? And Kaladin's like, they get sent to the freaking Ardents. And Adolin's like, oh, okay. And Kaladin's like, I don't think that's right. And I'm like, is he gonna become like a mental illness king? Is that Kaladin's like story from now on? I don't know, but I would love if, because the fact that they brought back Lyran, I'm like, I would love if he went back to surgery. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't fight anymore, but like, why not? Shallan and her 3 personalities. Oh my god. I think it's so weird. Like, I don't know how Adolin does this. Like, that's real love. If your husband is like, yeah, just you and your 3 personalities, just come on in. I accept all of you. But they work. And I'm so glad that someone finally told Adolin, like, hey, like, why don't you join, like, become a Radiant? I mean, obviously Adolin doesn't want to. He kind of snapped at Kaladin when he brought it up. But I was like, yeah, because I wondered, like, everyone else around him, besides Navani, is literally a Knights Radiant. Like, does he not think about wanting to become it? But then I also realized that now that he knows what his sword, the spren that his sword is like shard blade belongs to, he's kind of like attached to her and doesn't want to just like abandon her because he wants to go on to bigger, better things. But I was glad that someone finally brought that up. Also, oh my god, they know that the Blackthorn killed his wife. Because that was kind of what annoyed me about book 3, quote unquote annoyed me, was like Dalinar low-key judging Adolin for offing Sadius. It's like, sir, you killed your wife. Like, do you really want to throw stones? And I thought that the end of that book would be like kind of like a coming to Jesus moment where we see him telling his sons about like what he did to their mom, and they would have a conversation about it. But like kind of just having Kaladin say it, like, yeah, this happened. I'm like, wait, we need to see how Adolin and Renarin feel about this. Like, this this is crazy. How does Navani feel about this? Like, what? Like, that's insane to me. Like, and I hope we get Adolin's chapter and get to see what his mindset is, because that is like, when that revelation came, I was like, oh, young Dalinar is still my king, but that's crazy. Also, Rock leaving. Rock, no. I'm so glad the love triangle is no longer a thing and Adolin, Shallan, and Kaladin can just be buddies, because I could not stand that. Like, I understood the concept of trauma bonding between Shallan and Kaladin, but I was like, I hate love triangles. Hate love triangles. I'm on chapter 13 now, and I've been thinking for a while, well, not a while, just the entirety of chapter 13, that maybe Kaladin, his new task is going to be going with Shallan on her whole ghost blood hunt. But now we've gotten to the part where she's talking to Mraize, and I definitely think that he's going to join her on the honor brand hunts, where she's hunting for, what's his name? Restaras. And I hope I'm right, because I love their friendship and I want to see more of them together, Shallan and Kaladin. I am on chapter 44, so they have invaded the castle, or Urithiru. Oh man, I'm so disappointed in Kaladin for not fighting, but also, I mean, what was one man going to do? I loved seeing Navani like take charge the way she did. Obviously ended up being for naught, but she tried. Okay. Lift, of course. I was so sad for her when they didn't let her go to Shadesmar. I was like, damn, that's so mean. Like, let Lift go. She wants to help. Everyone was like, no, Lift is Lift is Lift. I'd kind of forgotten about her, but now that I know she's in the castle and awake, I'm like, are we gonna get a Lift and Kaladin Renaissance? Like, ooh, the girls always make it easy. No. I have a feeling we're gonna get Kaladin working with Navani and Lift to try to figure out what to do with the tower. But then also, I'm like, do you know what's so crazy is that from my last clip, the way I was like, Kaladin's gonna do this, like, Brandon Sanderson is never going to do what you think he's going to do. Like, he is going to throw you for a friggin' loop. But I'm glad we're seeing Kaladin act now. He's running around the castle. In my head, I'm thinking, imagine running up that many steps with like a huge ass man on your shoulder. It could not be me. I'm so curious, because now we've also seen Moesh's perspective, and it looks like Odium has his sights on Kaladin. I'm like, oh my god, what is gonna happen? Kaladin, I'm rooting for you. Still, I'm rooting for you. Also, Navani being a goddamn servant to these people. Excuse you, Queen Navani. We've also seen Taravanian's chapter at this point, and he is definitely going to betray Dalinar, but he has not given up. Finally, I was like, are you really just gonna roll over? Like, I'm not rooting for you, but also I'm hoping that you come to your goddamn senses. You failed. That smart part of you that was like, it was brilliant. All of his plans failed. Dalinar is still standing. Like, why do you still think that you should be listened to? So now he's finally, doing the damn thing, and I'm curious to see, like, after he betrays Dalinar, what is his plan after that? Because all of this just to save one state, one city, like, you failed. I did it all for humanity. Like, well, humanity is not going to thank you. So, happy reading. I am on chapter 58, so let us do an update. Kaladin is doing what Kaladin does, working with Navani, trying to save the day. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I am not excited for when we eventually go back to Adolin and Shallan's perspective. Like, I like them as characters. I just don't think their plot is that interesting right now. Like, I don't like Venli as much as I like them, but yet I love Venli's subplot. Like, I think she's so interesting. And oh my gosh, we finally seen Runarin. We finally got his perspective on the whole thing with his dad and his mom. I was like, where is this guy? He's choosing to believe that it was the enemy that, did the whole thing to his dad. And I'm like, you know what? I can't say that I blame you, because I don't even know how I would wrap my head around something like that. Yasna knocking that High Lord or a Bright Lord down a few pegs and fighting with him. In my mind, I was like, wait, is she actually going? Like, does she actually know how to fight? But I think she bet on him not wanting to fight her. And so she knew that she was gonna go all the way and like actually off this guy. Also, Navani a few chapters ago was like kind of saying that she's not sure what Yasna and the Wits relationship is like. And I'm like, Yasna and the Wits? Speaking of Venli, I am so curious how she and Kaladin are going to, because we've now gotten to the part where Relaine has been found. Like, I don't know what's happening next, but he's definitely been found, and I'm so curious how that hurt him, Venli, and Kaladin, how their stories are going to intersect, because Venli just saved Kaladin's family. Kaladin is Relaine's old captain. Like, what is I don't know, but I'm curious. I'm excited. I thought this book would be getting flashbacks of like Navani's life. Looks like it's Venli's life, or like Venli Shone, her sister. I'm not mad about it, but I would absolutely love to see more of Navani, because she kind of alluded to the fact that she's done laundry, she's done the whole humble thing. Like, she didn't come from like a rich family, and so I'm like, wait, I want to know more, Navani. Also, where is Lift? We now know she's awake, but she hasn't really done anything. I'm like, guys, show us Lift. We need a Lift. We need Lift and Kaladin to interact when they're not on the battlefield, because I just think they'd be the funniest people ever. Anyways, I'm going to go buy groceries because we're having taco night, and I don't want to stop reading, so I've bought it on Audible, and I'm going to be listening to it in the car. That's how I do it, switching from Kindle to audio, because I can't not be reading this book or listening. Almost done chapter 77, so let's do a small check-in. We're back to the part of the book where we're going to be following Adolin and Shallan, and they're going to be a normal part of the story. And honestly, I was thinking, wait, why don't I like reading their chapters? And I think it's because I like them as characters, but I like them as side characters. I don't know that I love them as main characters. But you know what? It's not too bad. It's just Adolin sometimes falls a little bit flat for me, and Shallan, her 3 personalities is so friggin' weird. But they're getting a lot more interesting because I cannot believe Pattern is betraying her. Like, I'm so curious to know why, because I thought he liked Shallan. I was like, what? When that was exposed, I was like, I actually could never have guessed this. I'm low-key looking forward to Navani and Ruboniel's relationship growing. Like, what's the woman version of bromance? Because I feel like that's what they have. I'm so curious to see the god or the hero that Dalinar is sitting. I think his name is Ishar, because I was like, wait, who is Ishar? I know there's one god in like Emul or some Makabaki land that has gone crazy and is trying to perpetuate war against the humans, but I feel like that's not Ishar. So I'm like, who is Ishar? I cannot remember. One character that is kind of like actually pissing me off is friggin' Liren. Like, why? What is this complicated relationship you have with your son who you just discovered is not dead? Like, I'm sorry, but a parent who just discovers that their long lost child is actually here and is a hero, it's not giving anything the way that he treats and talks about Kaladin. It's not giving anything at all, and it's kind of pissing me off. I'm so curious to know if Syl and Kaladin have found each other. Where we left off, he was on his own. She couldn't find him. Their bond was not strong enough because of the whole thing that's happening in the tower. And now, at least we know he's not dead. Dalinar saved him, but have they found each other? Like, is Moash's plan gonna work to break Kaladin? I hope not, but I can't guess what Brandon Sanderson is gonna do next. Okay, I really can't. It's really interesting to be able to see just how big of a part Venli played in this whole thing, because I think sometimes she dims it down. Like, I think she could actually take more responsibility for what she did, because holy crap, she literally orchestrated this entire thing. But also, it's finished chapter 77, and Nail, the crazy herald, was basically saying that Avalar, the old king, is going to betray you. And I'm like, I wonder if that's true, or if he was just trying to start shit. I don't know. I almost feel like we need a book just for Gavilar to figure out what the hell was he doing. I'm so glad we're going to be getting more of Relaine, that he's been freed, because I just think he's such an interesting character, and he's been so underused so far. So I just know that he's about to get his flowers, and I really hope he is able to bond with the Spren, like Navani suggested, because he turned down the Spren that Paladin basically begged for him, and he was like, no, I'm not going to bond with someone that obviously doesn't want to bond with me. It's like, I wonder, because that's like obviously foreshadowing. He's going to bond with the Spren, but it's like, which one? Is it going to be the sibling, or is it going to be the one that's Venli, or is it going to be the Spren that Venli's Spren brought to her to bond with her people? Who is it going to be? I'm on chapter 93, and guys, I'm so friggin' excited. I have been waiting for almost 2 books to hear about the listeners that left when the whole Stormform war was happening, because they didn't want to fight the humans. They didn't want to do that. But then earlier in the book, Venli was saying that her mother, she found her corpse because of the storm. And I was like, oh, is that confirmation that those people died because Venli's mom was one of the people that left because they didn't want to fight? And I was like, okay, I guess that means that all the people that decided to like defect are dead. Like, that's kind of really like anticlimactic. Finally, we have confirmation that they did in fact escape. I am so freaking excited. I cannot wait to see how this changes everything, because I'm not even joking. I've been like, where are they? Like, what happened to them? In other news, who do we think the sibling is going to bond? She's for sure going to bond someone. I hope it's Relaine. I'm also thinking it could be David, because he doesn't have a Spren as well. And I also think it might be Kaladin. So I'm going to say Relaine, David, Kaladin. I don't know. I feel like it would be cool to see someone bond more than one Spren. I feel like they've said so many times that these new Radiants are so unlike the ones from the past. And I'm like, maybe this is one of the ways that they're so unlike the ones in the past, is that they're able to bond more than one Spren. I don't know, but it would be cool. But I do feel like the author has alluded to it enough times that Relaine and David don't have their own Spren, that they will eventually get their own Spren. Maybe David bonds with a sibling, and Relaine gets the Void Spren that he's seen scuttling around with Kremlins. Like, that would be fun. Also, it seems like I'm missing some part of the book. Like, I read all the novellas that came in between. Like, I read Dawnshard before reading this one, but they've started started talking about, what is it, investiture. And I know some people were like, you should read Yumi and you should also read Warbreaker, but I didn't read those because I just wanted to jump straight in. It had been like 3 months since I'd read book 3. I was like, I need to read book 4, but I'm kind of feeling like maybe I should have, because I get the sense that investiture was probably talked about in the other books and I just don't fully understand it. Like, I understand it enough, but maybe, and this is just me like kind of guessing because I haven't read the synopsis of either of those 2 books, so I don't actually know what they're about, but I'm getting the vibe that it probably covered investiture or something like that, or shards. They talk about how the gods are one part shard, the other part vessel, and I get the sense that probably in one of those books, Yumi or Warbreaker, they maybe address that. I don't know. I'm not sure how I think Adelin's trial is gonna go. Like, it seems like Shallan, oh my gosh, because I like to be able to guess who is speaking. You know how like before the chapter starts, they always have a little text at the top that comes from someone's book. The last book was maybe from Dalinar's book, the book that he's writing about his life. But in this book, Rhythm of War, I got the sense that the first part of the book, the first 2 parts, was from the songs that the listeners used to sing from. And then I get the sense that the second part of the book, the second parts of the book, were reading from maybe the journal of one of the heralds, specifically the herald Vistaris, who is the judge in the Honor Spren realm. And it looks like Shallan does actually end up killing him. Just because you stabbed me with a dagger doesn't actually mean that you're going to capture me, a herald, as a Spren. So it seems like she accomplishes that. I wonder if that helps Adolin in, you know, trying to get them on his side, or at least not get captured. I don't know, because his trial isn't going very well. It's not going well at all. We haven't seen Dalinar in so long. Like, how is that war going? How is Yasna? I need to know how Yasna is. That's all that really matters to me. But I'm not gonna lie to you, it does feel like this whole tower thing is really dragging on. I'm like, bro, Paladin is still, you know, sad and complaining. At least Taft is awake. I'm just, Syl is nowhere to be found. I'm like, guys, this is really dragging. Like, can we just get some good news, some happy news? Navani's finally a goddamn scholar. It only took a friggin' fuse to make her feel accepted or to acknowledge that she's a goddamn scholar. But yeah, it's just kind of been a really dreary book. Like, is this what second book syndrome feels like? But it's actually like the 4th book? Because the first book was fantastic. I mean, gosh, the first book was amazing. Way of Kings, still my favorite in all 4 books so far. I really enjoyed the second one as well. It's up there. And then book 3 felt like it dragged sometimes. Oathbringer, I was like, okay, but it's still, you know, some really good parts. Book 4, I'm like, wow. I don't know how I'm reading this book so fast. Maybe it's because I keep waiting for something to happen, and so I'm reading it really quickly because I'm like, okay, now something will happen. It's like nothing's happening. The war in Emul or Nakata or whatever it's called isn't really, they're not even really showing it. The friggin' trial in Lasting Integrity is kind of boring and stale. Shallan is apparently formless now. I'm like, okay. Paladin is depressed and doesn't want to fight, you know, becoming Lyran. And Navani is basically trapped. I feel like I'm going to take a break after reading this before jumping into book 5. Probably read some romance books, continue reading The Raven Boys. I don't know. But yeah, I'm like 86% into the book, I think. Like 88%. And I am excited to like see what happens at the end, because it's just right now been 1,000+ pages of just feeling like, anything else? Anything else gonna happen? Oh my god, I'm reading chapter 93 right now. Did Shallan kill the cryptic that they brought during Adolin's trial to be like, see, humans can't be trusted? One of them broke their oaths? Is that what they're saying? I'm not done yet, but I'm scared. Shallan, was that you? Maya. I'm on chapter 100, 101, and I have a lot of thoughts. I actually had to call myself out while reading this book, because I was thinking to myself, all these like humans are having glyphs on their head, or not glyphs, like the sash brand supporting Kaladin, and it felt like he was still so depressed and sad, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait till he becomes a hero, like the exciting part, because I'm having flashbacks to Game of Thrones season 8, when we all thought Jon Snow was going to be this amazing, heroic, kill the Night King, and then what was his purpose? And then I realized that like at the beginning of this whole like book, this whole journey, I was telling myself that I love that they're addressing Kaladin's mental illness. I love that they're not just brushing it aside, that darkness is a real thing that someone feels. And here I am trying to force, in my head, trying to force this character, obviously he's not a real person, but trying to force this person to quickly recover because I want something from him. And it reminded me of a lot of my friends that, you know, have gone through mental problems, that are going through their mental illness. Oftentimes, when they tell people in their lives what they're going through, obviously people are supportive and they want them to get better, but oftentimes I find that we humans want someone who we love that's suffering to get better in the confines of how we want them to get better. We want you to be sick in the confines that we deem to be okay. Then once that starts to become too much, we want you to get better because it's starting to impede on ourselves and our comfort, and it's starting to increase our discomfort. We all are inherently very selfish people, and so I had to call myself out and be like, he's going to be however it is he feels for however long it takes. You know what I mean? Like, and this is me literally just being on my soapbox and forcing myself to not try to impose how I think someone should get better onto someone else. And yeah, I don't know, I just felt like I had to call myself out for that, to be like, no, hold the fuck up. He's gonna be however he is, and me as someone who loves his character is gonna read through it and support him and hope that he gets better. And that's the only thing I should be feeling towards him. It's not, you need to get better because I want this from you, because I find that in real life that happens so often, where it's like someone's sick, however long it lasts, you're supporting them and you're fully there, and then it gets to the point, maybe it's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, where you're like gone on for too long, and it makes the person feel like they have to get better because of this person. And sometimes that works in that you're seeing people who love you and it makes you want to try harder, but sometimes it does the inverse and it makes it so that you feel like you have to get better, and your recovery is almost fake because it's based off of other people's discomfort. Anyways, that's all I had to say. Just wanted to call myself out and be like, I'm gonna hold on firm, because maybe Kaladin's illness is gonna continue for this whole book. Maybe it's gonna continue for the whole next book. Obviously, I would love a whole huge epic thing with the whole thing that they're making him be like this hero, but I'm fine if that's not what it is. Also, I think I got into the part where Wit was kissing Yasna's hand. I was like, I did not see that coming. I know it was kind of alluded to, but I was like, no, they're not together. They are. Yasna and Wit. Who the fuck saw that coming? Not me, but also now I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It does. I get the vibe that Sen's father, who he says was alive, but then Taravangian was like, no, your father's dead. I get the vibe he's gonna be important. I don't know, but I'm surprised that we haven't gone to Shinover yet, because Shinover has been talked about so many times in the, like, so far in the books. They have all the honor blades but one. I'm like, oh, we need to go there, and maybe that's gonna be the next book. Is it gonna follow his past? I'm so curious, because this one was Venli, the next book. I thought this book was going to be Navani, but then I felt like it would have been repetitive. It almost feels like they're not telling us the full story of what Gavilar was doing. I thought by now we would have a full picture, but it keeps expanding. Like, what was this man doing? Apparently trying to kill God. So I'm midway through chapter 111. It was MLK Day / Inauguration Day, so we had the day off at work. Oh my god. Everything I thought was going to happen didn't happen. Oh my god. What is happening? Navani bonded with a sibling. I actually love that. I love that more than what I said before. I don't care about the other ones. This is perfect. Her killing a fuse? Moaj killing Teft? I didn't see that coming. Like, Teft, I was like, I feel like Teft is being shown so much that, like, is this the end? Because in TV shows, when a character is shown a lot, you just kind of, like, know that, oh, maybe it's the end. But I was like, they're not going to do that to Teft. Kaladin, seeing his brother, I don't know what to think. I cried. I cried when Teft died. I want to know, why was Kaladin's eye glowing red and yellow? Oh my god. Oh my god. Relaine getting his own spread. Also, why does Dalmor keep saying, I need to renew the Oath Pact? First of all, I don't think that's the solution, because as we've seen, Singlers are willing to be with humans, you know? Also, if you renew the Oath Pact, who the fuck is going into Brazier hell to be tortured? No. No. He's gonna be like, who wants to volunteer? Everyone's gonna be like, sir? Because I feel like he's fighting one battle, like he's trying to solve the battle one way, and Navani's thinking of it another way, and I'm with Navani. We can work together like her and Rabonio did. Like, we can absolutely, like, Leshmi, my girl, guys. This is freaking crazy. I was scared that at the end, Relaine would go and look for his people and stay with them, but I feel like it'd probably be like half-half. Like, he would be like bi-coastal. Sometimes he's with the humans, other times he's with his people. Like, we can do that, right, Relaine? Like, you're not gonna leave Cal, are you? Oh my god, when the other Windrunners find out that Teft is dead. Also, I was right about Seth's father. Yes, he's dead. I mean, I wasn't right. I thought he'd have a bigger role, but like, he came back around and we found out he is in fact dead. And Ishar is crazy. I'm glad that at least Cal and his father kind of made out. This is so crazy. I just finished 113. What do you mean Taravangian is goddamn odium? Is that good or bad? Is he a good person now? No, he's not. I don't even know what just happened. I literally just finished it right now and I was like, I need to come to my skincare and talk about this. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is going on? Brandon Sanderson, have mercy. On a lighter note, Kaladin's dad having the sash brand was so cute. But also, I was really confused about Dalinar being his own champion, because earlier in the book, Syl was like, Kaladin's gonna be his champion, and I was like, that's never been said before. I always assumed Dalinar was going to be Honor's champion, and then Odium would pick his own champion. So when she said that, I was like, And then Dalinar said he's gonna be his own champion, and I was like, ooh, I wonder what this fight is gonna be about. But also, Taravangian is a god now. How is it possible that he wins? Like, what? What? I just feel like that's such a fucking joke. Such a fucking joke. I have like 2 or 3 more chapters left before the end of the book, and I'm just like, I don't even understand. I'm so confused. Taravangian is a god. Old Odium is dead. We haven't seen Shallan and Adolin in a couple of chapters. One, I'm so glad that like Adolin isn't going the Radiant route. I've always thought that ever since they showed us Maya and they bonded, I was like, oh no, like, he's definitely not going the Radiant route. Like, if he was going to be a Radiant, they would have made him one by now, even though he did kill Sadius, but you know, whatever. I was like, is that why he's not coming to Radiant? And I was like, that's not the path for everyone. And now that the whole thing has happened with Maya, I'm like, like, I cannot wait to see where this goes. Are they going to be able to reverse what happened with like the dead Spren? I don't know. But we haven't seen them in a while. We know who killed that cryptid. It was Shallan. I need to see what happens there. How is Dalinar gonna find out that Taravangian is now Odium? That's all I want to know. It's always like the person you think is the big bad, because actually in the shower, literally in the shower, I was like, what if Odium isn't the big bad? Because I remember reading the whole Sadeas thing in the first book and being like, I just get the vibe that this is too small. And then we got to the part of the book where Navani, you know, at the beginning of the chapter, they always have like a small like little part from a journal or something. Navani was like, we should not have been focusing so much on Sadeas. He was not like the focus point. Like, he's not the big bad. I was like, yeah, he's absolutely not the big bad. If anything, maybe he'll fight with Odium, but I just don't see him being the focus point. And then we have the Parshendi or the Voidbringers, and they're not really the big bad. The big bad is Odium, and then we find out that Odium wants to use humans to fight in other worlds. And I was like, holy crap, like it just keeps expanding. And now Odium is not even the big bad. It's just very confused. Also, do you know how much joy it brings me that Navani saved her goddamn self? She saved her goddamn self. Kaladin didn't save her. Dalinar didn't save her. R'Lain didn't save her. Not even the goddamn sibling saved her. She saved herself. When that happened, I was like, because I thought R'Lain was going to go down and save her. And I was like, oh, like, where is he? Like, come and save Navani. She can't die. That would actually crush me if she died. Crush me. I haven't allowed myself to have her as like, because I like her as a character. I love her as a character. She's one of my favorites, but I haven't allowed myself to love her as like a main favorite character, because I don't like the fact that we haven't really gotten much of Yasna. She's literally said the fourth ideal. Where the fuck are her multiple chapters? Like, I need more of Yasna. So I'm like, you know what? I don't get the vibe that he's going to let us have a lot of Yasna and Navani, by he and Brandon Sanderson. Like, let me not love them. Let me just love the ones that I know at least we're gonna get some kind of closure with them, and they're gonna be alive and they have plot armor. I was like, Navani can't die. R'Lain, where the fuck are you, David? Get your mute ass over to her. And then she saved herself. I was like, yes. Oh my god, that made me so happy. Paladin did not save her. R'Lain didn't save her. The sibling didn't save her. Dalinar did not save her. She saved herself. I am officially done book 4. Immediately I woke up this morning and I read the last couple of chapters. And I'm not gonna lie, the ending felt a bit abrupt. Like, it felt like, damn, like, okay, Venli going to her people and them kind of not accepting her, but like letting her in. Her mom becomes a Radiant. I was like, whoa, in the span of a couple of pages, okay, like, damn, like if I were them, I would have absolutely arrested her and beat the shit out of her. But the whole thing felt so abrupt, the entire ending. I'm really glad R'Lain got us like a Spran, of course, but I almost wish like he spent so much time in the middle of the book, the entire book, just so much detail, like just telling us everything. We know everything about Navani's scientific experiments, everything about what Kaladin was going through, and then the ending, I don't know, it felt too abrupt. I'm really glad we got to see like an ending for Ashane. Oh gosh, she deserved so much better. She was done so dirty by her sister, so fucking dirty. I don't even know how Venli lives with herself. Like, she did her sister so dirty. Like, and it just goes to show that it's not always the good, but the good one that like wins. It's not always the good one that survives, because in an ideal world, Ashone would have survived and been a Radiant. Instead, she was a Radiant during her last few seconds of life. That part made me cry. I was like, no. Because when the Stormfather was telling Dalinar that I've shown mercy this one time, I was like, oh my god, Ashone's alive? She's alive? And then I was like, no, she's not. Oh god, I'm really nervous for Taravangian to be Odium. I read the synopsis of book 5 because I don't like to read it until I'm done the previous book, obviously, because then it's a spoiler. And it sounds like everyone finds out that he's Odium. It sounds like it. I don't know. But he also fooled wits. Like, he wiped his memory, which I'm like, Taravangian is a craftier version of the old one. Also, I don't even know what exactly is motivating him. Like, didn't you want to save everyone and now you want vengeance and you want to... And I'm just so confused. Like, and I hope that Brandon Sanderson goes through it in the next book. Like, what is motivating him to want to continue being evil? Like, what? I do like that in this book we got to see more of like different pairings that we don't normally see. Like, we've never really seen Yasna and Dalinar without Navani there between them, so we got to kind of see them interact. We got to see Kaladin and Navani, which is like such an interesting pairing. It was interesting though because she also thought that Kaladin was going to be the champion, which I was like, I guess everyone just kind of thought that, just kind of assumed that of course Kaladin's going to be the champion because he's a good soldier or a good fighter. But I always assumed it would 100% be Dalinar, so I'm glad it's still him, but I thought it was cool that we're seeing something that was kind of in the back of everyone's mind. Kaladin being like, oh, I'm not ready to fight in 10 days. Navani being like, well, Kaladin's gonna win, and Dalinar's like, it's not. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But in the next book, this book did something that a lot of second books do, which is that in the first book, they make you like love the characters and love the relationships, and then in the second book, they separate them, and that always kind of pisses fans off. Except in this one, the first book, we got to like learn who the characters were learning themselves. We were learning who they were, and then in book 2 and book 3, they were learning each other in this new way, this new world. The second book was in the old world. The third book, they're learning each other in the new world, the new Thiru, and then in the fourth book, separated. And I'm hoping in book 5, that they come back together. But from reading the synopsis, it sounds like once again we have very interesting pairings, and more so than book 4. We have Seth and Kaladin. We have Rlain and Shallan. What is Adolin doing in Azir? Like, what is he doing there? I'm so confused. I'm so curious. Wait, it's Rlain and Shallan. We have Renarin and someone else. I don't know. In this book, I think Rlain called Renarin his sibling because they both have a similar spren. So like, I'm also curious to see how that relationship is gonna blossom and grow. I'm excited. I'm nervous though, because let me tell you something. Book 4, I felt that 1,200 pages. I did. I rated this 4 stars. This is the first one of the series that I haven't rated 5 stars just because it felt long. Like the other books, I've been so anxious about it ending because I didn't want it to end, but this book I was like, I am hoping that we get an ending where the singers and the humans are able to live together. I think that's like, would be nice. But maybe that's too much to hope for. Earlier in the video, I said that Kaladin was going to do his mental health help on Talon, the herald, the really crazy one that everyone left there. And then we find out at the end of the book that no, it's actually going to be on Ishar, which I was like, I'm taking that win because everything else I predicted in this book was wrong. I think he's gonna go back to surgery. Also, I'm like, you as a surgeon, what typically happens when people aren't okay? And Kaladin's like, they get sent to the freaking Ardents. And Idun's like, oh, okay. And Kaladin's like, I don't think that's right. And I'm like, is he gonna become like a mental illness king? So I'm going to take that win that at least he's helping one of the heralds, even though it's not the one that I thought he was going to help. Also, only having 10 days to do that and having to do that with a kind of crazy guy that killed a bunch of monarchs. Good luck to you, Kaladin. I'm not gonna jump straight into book 5 yet. I'm going to reread another fantasy book. I think I'm going to read The Raven Boys, and then I will read book 5. I don't know. I kind of want to jump straight into it. I kind of don't. I'm nervous. I did just see that we're getting a Rock book. When I saw that we were getting a book 4.5, I was like, who could this be for? And I saw Rock, and I was like, oh my gosh, because Kaladin was saying that he doesn't think he's ever going to see Rock again. And then when those two windrunners that were escorting Rock to where he lived came back, Kaladin was like, yeah, I've never seen him again. And they confirmed that. And I was like, what do you mean they confirmed that? Is Rock dead? Is Rock dead? No. So I'm so excited for his book. It's coming out 2026 or 2027, which is a long way away. We're literally January 2025, but I'm very excited for that. I love his novella. This book offers such a unique perspective on immigration, because when I found out in book 3, I think, that the singers, the listeners, the fuse, whomever, were the original inhabitants of Roshar, I said, what, on Roshar? Like, what? That shook me to my core. Because I'm constantly trying to now validate the things that they're doing. Like, I'm not reading this book thinking, good guy, bad guy. I'm reading this book thinking, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, but then in book 4, the one I just finished reading, Navani had this conversation, not in like a full-on way with Rabonio, but like, Rabonio would say something like, well, you guys are not native to Earth or to Roshar. And Navani would be like, I'm not talking about my ancestors who were not native and, did the wrong thing. I'm talking about myself, and I am absolutely native here. Like, this is my home. And I was like, that's right too. That is right as well. Like, but then when you start to like apply it to real life, do current day Canadians whose ancestors stole this land from Native Americans deserve to be here, belong here? They absolutely do. They were born here. They know nowhere else. If Native Americans decided to pick up arms and say, I'd be like, well, I should up and go. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like being able to see both sides and being like, wow, there really is just like, what is the moral high ground here? I don't know. Because even then, does me thinking that listeners and singers and Parshendi or whatever should also like deserve to like live in peace on Roshar, is that based off of them working well with like the humans? Like Leshwi and Venli, those who defected and decided to help the humans, is me thinking that they deserve a place on Roshar, on that planet, dependent on the fact that they helped the humans. It should not be. It should not be. I should not feel more or less empathetic to their cause because they're helping the invaders. But Kaladin, Navani, like, everyone, no one, they're not any leaders because this happened generations ago, thousands of years ago. How much blame can you put on the descendants of people who did you wrong? And quite frankly, that is a conversation that I have in my head every couple of months, maybe like once a month. I'll see something on like Threads or Instagram where I'm like, I don't think you can blame people for what their ancestors did. I think there needs to be some kind of compensation to acknowledge that wrong was done. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? They haven't started having that conversation yet, but they need to. I don't like how book 4 immediately went back to seeing the few and the listeners, singers as the bad guys. I thought we would have some kind of like huge, light bulb moments where they were like, we need to figure out how to exist on this planet with the people who it belongs to. Obviously, the Fuse and the singers are not giving them that option. They're being also very aggressive. I don't know, I'm just like trying to figure this out because I definitely thought this book would do more in terms of trying to find that middle ground. Maybe that's gonna be book 5. But fucking Dalinar talking about how making a deal with Odium and saying, if I lose, if I win, then you take your people out. This is not your fucking planet. This is not your fucking planet. Like, I don't even, that should have pissed me off more. I'm just thinking about it now and I'm like, because Kaladin and Navani in separate ways have kind of had this epiphany about how, shit, they're not bad people and they deserve to be here as well. Duh. Dalinar hasn't had that yet. Dalinar has not had that epiphany that like, this isn't yours. These people are not evil for wanting their land back. The things they're doing are evil, but there needs to be a middle ground. Obviously, the crazy fused gotta go. But like the normal singers, fucking Parshmen, like what they did to them. I need to reread that part of the book. I actually need to reread that part of the book. You thought I was done? No, I have more to say. One thing I thought was interesting is that throughout the entire book, there's this whole theme about who the victim is. And I talked about it previously before. Whose land is it? Who is really the bad guy? Who deserves to own the land? Blah, blah, blah. But in this case, I want to talk about Tien and also the spread. Because Tien, based off of Kaladin's perspective from previous books, it made it seem as if Tien was put on the front lines as a buffer between the enemies and those who actually know how to use a freaking spear. And then we see in Kaladin's vision that, oh no, that's not really what happened. Tien, volunteered. Tien volunteered because he didn't want the people that were going to be on the front line to be alone. So he was a victim because he still shouldn't have been there. Like, that's not, he should not have been at the front lines regardless. But not in the way that we thought he was. He chose to be there as much as you can choose as someone who is too young to fully understand war. But that kind of changes your perspective a bit. And it kind of, puts a softer spot in my heart, an even softer spot in my heart for the character that was Tien. And then we see the spread. That friggin' scene with Maya, like, holy crap. I don't know why it never ever crossed my mind. They said that the Radiants gave up. Okay, maybe I need someone to explain this to me, because they said the Radiants gave up their oaths because they realized that, oh shit, we're fighting for land that actually does not belong to us. Like, we are not the good guys in this situation. It was never explicitly said, to my understanding, that that was wrong. I wonder, wait, did they clarify? I need someone to explain that to me. We thought the Spren were the victims. Because the humans chose to give up their oath, the Spren were killed as a result. That's not what happened. The Spren made that decision with the humans, knowing that something not great was going to happen to them, but choosing to do it because it was worth it for whatever reason. Maybe that reason being that they needed the war to end. I'm gonna need someone to refresh my memory. I just read the book and yet I'm confused. Why did the Radiants give up their powers? This is why you shouldn't do your heatless curls while you're talking, because this is what happens. Final thoughts about Rhythm of War. 4 stars. It was 4 stars. I love these characters enough that I will go through another Rhythm of War just to read more about them. But I think this book felt like the middle book syndrome. It felt like it was prepping for what book 5. Book 5, I assume, is going to be. Because book 1, 2, and 3. Book 1 and 2 definitely did not get the middle book syndrome. Book 3 started to get a bit like, oh, this was maybe a couple 100 pages too long, but like not by much. It was still great. I still rated that one 5 stars. Oathbringer was, still fantastic, not as good as book 1 and 2. Book 4, I was like, okay, we finally reached the middle book syndrome, and that's what this felt like. It's middle book syndrome is not a bad thing. It just means that like I expect the next book to like really make up for it and like go where it needs to. But yeah, I think there were some characters that I would have loved to see more of. Like, I think we were robbed of some character interactions in this book, and I'm gonna list them. I'm going to list them because I think these characters absolutely should have interacted, and we should have seen that. Maybe they'll interact in the next book. I really hope so. Number 1, Yasna and her nephew. Like, he is basically he's her heir. And I would have loved to see them interact. I think that would have been so cute. I loved his interactions with Dalinar and Navani. I would have loved to see him and Yasna as well. Also, him being like the heir. Gavinar, I think that's his name, Gavinar and Kaladin because I thought it was really cute that we learned that Gavinor wants to be a windrunner when he gets older, and I was like, that's so cute. Like, and I'm like, I wonder what kind of inspired that, because no one in his immediate family is a windrunner, but he wants to be. I was like, that's adorable, and I think it would have been adorable to see him and Kaladin interact in some way. In my mind, Kaladin's brother and Gavinor are friends. We didn't get to see Adolin and Renarin interact. I would have loved to see that, but that's fine. We've seen them interact a bunch of times in previous books, but I'm very interested to see how they talk about what their father did to their mom, because we've seen each of their perspectives and how they're dealing with it. Adolin, you know, angry, understandably, and just so like I listen, I can't even begin to imagine what I would do if I was in his shoes. Whereas Renarin is kind of choosing to believe that it was his father was basically possessed by the thrill, which also understandable. Like, it's either you hate your father or you have that excuse, and I understand why he would choose that, especially since it does have some truth to it. But yeah, we didn't get to see Adolin and Renarin interact. I would love to see that. I also want to see like how they both come to terms with that together. Also, when you really think about it, we didn't get to see Shallan and Kaladin interact. Like, his interaction was with her body double. I forget her name, the one that's kind of a badass. Yeah, they interacted, but technically Shallan and Kaladin never did. So we need that one as well in the next book. But it seems like the next book has some very interesting pairings. I'm not going to pick it up yet. I'm going to give myself some time to become excited for Wind of Truth and then eventually pick it up. But for now, I think I'm just gonna read other things, get myself in the mood, and then finally pick it up. It's book 5 in a series of 10, which I didn't know. I thought book 5 was the last book. So I think it is. I think what happens is similar to Mistborn, which I haven't read yet, but from what I've heard, Mistborn is like the trilogy, and then there's like a gap, jump, and then it's like the next book, like the next era. So I feel like if it's similar to like how other books do it, where it's like a couple of years, a couple of decades, then these characters that we're reading about maybe become secondary characters in the second half of the world. Because I read in the acknowledgement of the novella, Lift's novella, this is 2.5, that he has big plans for Lift to take on more of a role in future books. So I thought that meant that she was going to be a huge part of book 3 and book 4. She was in book 3, she wasn't a huge part of it, but she was definitely there. She was less so there in book 4. Like, she was there, but even less than she was in book 3. So I'm thinking, is Lift going to be one of the main characters in the next 5 books of the Stormlight Archive? Maybe. That's what I'm thinking. I think she's gonna be, like, I think the Kaladin, the Shallans, the Adolins are going to, the Dalinars, maybe gonna take a back seat. Maybe we meet them again when Gavinor is getting ready to be king. You know, it's given Ember in the Ashes vibes. I mean, not gonna spoil it. Not gonna spoil it because I do expect everyone to read these 4 books. There's no excuse. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe, I mean, Kaladin's brother hasn't really been made into like he's just a baby, so like he's not an actual character, a fully fleshed out one. But maybe he becomes like, you know, like, I'm so curious to know what the next book is going to focus on. Everyone says read Sunlit Man after, because I think a lot of people accidentally read Sunlit Man before, and that spoiled something that happens in Wind of Truth. Thankfully, I have not done that. I'm going to read that after, but none of my predictions were really right. So this is literally just me shooting the shot. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video.